Dad, I didn't know Mr. Bean was taught for the Germans.
Right, clear it! Hands up! Hands up! Johnny!
He's a medic. He's trying to help.
Keep pushing up! Keep an eye on that guy. Can't? All right. Hey, let's go up, guys. You can park. Come on. Come on. Arm over leg. Follow them. Want me to light the load for you a little bit there? Keep an eye on this guy. He's wide. Wide. Yeah, okay. What a shame. Any intel? Second squad leaders, on me! Dr. Mizella! Got him off. Everybody start pulling back. I think we're clear back there. Pull back to the holes. All right, Charlie. Pull back. Careful. Let's go. Police up any weapons. Police up any front weapons. Remain vigilant. They know we're in the area now. I don't want to hear it. Got a knife. More trouble than he's worth. Captain, the prisoner fell on a knife. Oh, did he? Good. Fall again. Look at this, Captain. Coming on this guy over here. Look at this, Captain. I need some Joes. Here, 2 pounds. Hey, white with blood on it. All right.
What do you say? He goes, why is there blood on it? He goes, he fell on it by accident.
Fell on what?
The knife.
Let's get him back by our
Pay attention.
guys.
Shut up.
Come on, stream of respect. Bring him back. Bring his gear. Let the crowd rot. Sign that right light.
displays, or even on the battlefield here with some of the equipment that you will not find in most museums in the United States. Stuff in private collections have been collected by some of these guys for 40 or 50 years. Some of these things were given to us by veterans, and we love to share the stories. So we appreciate you guys coming out. This event is one of the largest in the country, and we appreciate you coming out to it and supporting it. Sorry about the sun. I didn't order that. But it's not raining. So we're going to get underway here in a couple minutes. This is France, 1944, and in the hedgerow countries of Normandy. And you're going to see the Germans that are trying to repel the Allied invasion, the breakout from the Normandy area. And you'll see a lot of the equipment and some of the tactics employed by the Germans and also by the Allies as they come through. And I will try to narrate some of that and explain some of the equipment as it comes through. So we're going to get underway here in just a minute. And just a reminder that we will not have people come out of the battlefield because we do have pyro. We have cables in the field, and there's also the issue that we may have a lot of unexpended rounds. So we want to make sure that kids don't pick them up on that. So we won't let people on the field, but we will be collecting brass to try to give to the kids along the spectator line once things are finished. So we will get underway here in just a second. Thank you for coming.
No, I go back down.
So you can see reconnaissance elements here moving forward to go scout out. They're making first contact with allies. There's you can see smoke coming up from mortars and from firing. They know that the Americans are coming through pretty soon. They're also shooting at Allied planes with the air defense system. Those are twin MG-34s mounted on the back of a truck that was an easy mobile platform. Interestingly, it's a Ford. Ford had a production during the 1930s. It kept producing trucks all the way through the war. The half-track that you see covered in camouflage was typical in Normandy, where you did not want to be seen, so you would try to cover up your vehicle as best you could with foliage, so you were not as visible from Allied bombers. The Allies had complete air superiority over Normandy for the entire campaign starting on day one. Moving during the day, actually, in armored vehicles was pretty dangerous. You can see that they're taking some fire, so they're starting to realize that they've been seen and they're going to pull out. This is a Hutzer tank display. This is built on a Czechoslovakian tank T-38 chassis. It was a shape that was available to the Czech Republic when they were pre-World War II. During the war, the Germans continued producing the 38T chassis, and one of the most successful models, in addition to the Marder and other types of tank self-propelled guns, was this tank destroyer with a 75mm high-velocity gun. It had a low profile and a sloped armor, a little bit like a pyramid. That helped increase your armor protection. So if you had about 2 inches of armor and you sloped it like that, now your armor protection is about 4 inches. This is the Marder tank destroyer. This is a very common issued to panzer units and also to infantry units. It was very versatile in that you had an open cab in the back, so you could still take damage and be taken out by mortar fire and indirect fire. But if it was in a well-placed position in a tree line, that 75 high-velocity gun was very, very deadly to anything that the Allies could throw against them in Normandy. So the Germans have dug in. You'll see a trench line down at the far end that is filled with German soldiers that they dug alongst that hedgerow to defend against the Allied invasion and the breakout that they were expecting in Normandy. The main gun that fired that you could see in the dug-in position closest to the crowd on the left side of the field, that's a 75 millimeter pack howitzer, pack 40. And that was a primary anti-tank weapon deployed by the Germans throughout the war. All armor, including Soviet armor. So they're in defensive position waiting for the Allied assault that they know is coming this way because the reconnaissance elements have come in. The Allies are starting to drop artillery on the field and on some of the positions to try to soften things up, and that is in preparation for them to be moving forward. Now the Marder 3 is in service. Armor that they're seeing moving off in the distance on stage right. So during June of 1944, the Germans had what they referred to as static positions that were along the Atlantic Wall and defensive positions along the beaches to prevent any sort of an invasion, which this stretched from Norway down into Denmark, the Netherlands, Belgium, all the coast of France, all the way down to the Spanish border. And they built curtains, barbed wire, mines, obstacles that would tear open landing craft that would attempt to land on these beaches. And Normandy was not considered a primary place that they would land. It was sort of unexpected because most of the Norman coastline was cliffs. And you can't land tanks and easily get a lot of supplies and equipment when you have to go up a 100-foot cliff. But there are some beaches where there's gaps in those cliffs. And those are the beaches that became Omaha, Gold, Juno, and Sword. And in between the beaches, it's like, I wonder why they had all these gaps. It's because it was all cliffs that were 100 feet high along the rest of the coast. When you get up to Utah Beach in the Koteton Peninsula, that is mostly flat, open beaches, like what you might find in California or out on the East Coast. And that was a lot harder to defend because you had to build all these positions into sand dunes rather than into solid rock on the cliff faces. You note that the Hetzer is backing up. The armor on that vehicle is very heavy in the front to take frontal rounds that are hitting it, but its weakest armor is actually in the back, which is true of most armored vehicles. So you would want to back up so if you're being hit by enemy artillery or enemy tank rounds, that you could still have the strongest. They're trying to pull around because they're seeing some heavier armor, and it's a little bit more than they're expecting. So they're going to pull back to new defensive positions. They've been seen, and they're getting some artillery fire, which could take these vehicles out. So they're going to go undercover and try to take up a different position. The bomb truck that you see in the distance there, that is a 251 bomb truck that was used as a primary Panzer Grenadier tank support infantry vehicle. It was only issued to tank units, and that's what the infantry were traveling as an armored personnel carrier, usually mounted either an MG-34 or an MG-42 light squad machine gun on a plate that was in the front to protect the gunners. It offered some fire support. These vehicles typically would go just behind the tanks, and when they started hitting resistance, the infantry couldn't run and keep up with the armored vehicles, but the half-track could. They could open up the back doors, deploy, and then they would go along with the tanks into combat to sweep out positions. We have German infantry pulling out of their forward positions that have been battered by artillery fire, and they're starting to see that there's some heavy Allied presence that they're starting to push through. They also have a lot of support from machine guns and that are in the woods. they're trying to pull out now while they still have time under the cover of the foliage to get to a more defensive position. The unit that you see on the right side, and just in front of the trench, these are Fallschirmjägers. These are German paratroopers that were considered very elite troops. They were used several times during the war. In the Battle of Normandy, they held kind of the center section between the American beaches in the town of Carrington, and they held out very well against elements of the 101st Airborne, and then the Allied units that came and followed up. Their helmets are different, and the smocks that they have are different. A lot of their equipment's different than what you see on the regular German infantry, because it was designed so they could jump out of an airplane with all the stuff with tie-downs. The helmets also were designed so they didn't cup as much air, so they could go down a lot easier. You can see the Hetzer tank destroyer that's taking up a new position. The Marder 3 is starting to get into position here as well. They're moving up so they can get into those ambush spots that are in the foliage. You saw the camouflage that's on those vehicles. And the tan was a base coat that they put on every vehicle that left the German factory. Then they were oversprayed based on whatever color scheme they saw in the foliage. The color scheme that you see on most of the vehicles out there is a fall foliage color that was very effective. Once you sort of get them into a tree line, and you would mix it with some natural branches in there. You can see the infantry that's in front of the German lines. They're setting up as a skirmish line where they get fire, they try to push forward, they will get into a firing line, then they'll move forward, and they kind of do like a leapfrog. They'll come down again, so they got leaps and bounds another 10 or 20 feet over open ground, because otherwise if they tried to move all the way across the field, they'd not only be exhausted, but they'd also be easy pickings for machine gun fire in the distance. By the time those guys get up and they start running, as the Allies start to react and lay down machine gun fire, mortar fire, these guys are already on the ground again. So you can hear that they have an MG42 machine gun that's in play. That's a gun that has a rate of fire of about 1,200 rounds per minute. The MG42 that came out in 1942 was actually designed to make up for some of the feedback that they got from their infantry. The MG34 had a rate of fire of about 500 rounds per minute, and the slower rate of fire they thought was good for conserving ammunition. But the feedback was that when they see a target running out in the open, they usually only have a couple seconds to respond. So if you have a higher rate of fire, instead of sending 5 or 6 bullets, you could send 20 or 30. Your chances of hitting a target that only exposes itself for a couple seconds makes it a lot easier to hit the target. The Allies have reached the beginning of the first trench line. They're probably starting to infiltrate through there. Moving across open ground like this isn't that easy when you have dug-in enemies that are on the other side of the field. You can easily just shoot it and you don't have very much cover. The first tank, that is actually the mid to late war version that was a little bit more up armored, and they got rid of a lot of patches. You got two weak spots in the tank. It's armed with a 37mm cannon. The 37 was often referred to as a door knocker cannon because it was very, very lightweight. It was fine for taking out maybe that half track, and it could take out trucks, but it was not much of a match for the Hetzer tank unless you could get a flank shot on it. The Americans moved away pretty quickly from using the 37, and they went to a 75mm gun. The command to these tanks and also on the German tanks. By the end of the war, they were using even larger caliber weapons to match what the Germans had with 88mm and high-velocity 75s. The third tank had a bow machine gun, so you can take out infantry and kind of poke away the pin down infantry while the tank use the main gun to actually penetrate the position where they could actually penetrate walls to take out. There was also a 50 caliber machine gun that's on top of the tank, which is not meant to be taken and used against infantry. It was actually meant for air defense. So you could use it to take out German Wolfline aircraft. Further back behind Stewart's is a M8 Greyhound. The Greyhound armored car is a six-wheeled armored car. It's pretty robust. They can go pretty fast. They can go about 60 miles an hour, and they've got a heck of an engine in it. They have decent frontal plate armor, and they also have an armored turret. It's open top, so you can still throw grenades in. You can be taken off on the moon. But it protected the crew relatively well. It is also armed with a 37. It has a 30 caliber machine gun and a coaxial mount that can turn around, and it also has a 50 cal. The 50 cal in that position could be used against infantry, but it's primarily designed to be an aircraft weapon. The next vehicle that you see coming in from the right side is a American half-track. It's armed with a large gun that can be used for anti-tank use, which is designed as a tank destroyer. There's sort of the American ingenuity on how can you make a tank destroyer, some of the Germans using obsolete tanks, like in using them as self-propelled guns. So this is the American answer where with a 75mm gun there, and you get a lot more oomph with the 75mm gun than you do with what the tanks go off on the field. A little bit behind that, you see another armored car that's moving up. It's a four-wheel armored car. It's a Humber. The Humber was designed by the British to be used as a reconnaissance vehicle and infantry support. Usually used in reconnaissance battalions. It is also armed with a 37mm and has coaxial machine guns. So they took out the Hetzer. You can see the smoking wreckage of it in the field. And it looks like they've taken out some of the other German vehicles. The Marauders still in service. But he's backing up to try to keep the armor facing the enemy. German infantry starting to pull back because they realize they're getting flanked, and their main weapon that they thought was taking all the bomb rack itself to The infantry will follow in because one of the things you wanted to make sure is that if you don't have supporting tank infantry, the Germans follow to the If you don't have support infantry, what happens is that people with anti-tank weapons, even bundles of grenades, Panzerfaust, disposable anti-tank weapons, even landmines can come up and destroy your vehicle. See a couple of Jeeps moving that have 50 caliber machine guns on them. The 50 caliber on these vehicles also was meant to be an aircraft weapon. But since the Allies had command of the skies, it just became a heavy support weapon platform, so they could fire the 50 cal. You could really shape the Jeep pretty hard because it wasn't necessarily designed to be a stable platform for a 50 caliber machine gun. But if you fire enough rounds down range, you can do quite a bit of damage. The 50 cal would be easy enough to go through the sides of half tracks in a lot of cases. You definitely take out the truck. It is enough to penetrate 2 to 3 feet of packed armor. But you can stop a bullet. The 50 caliber round would be able to go through that many structures. Now you can see the M1 Garand as the infantry moves up. You see it in action, and you can see that these guys have rapid fire. You see some of them actually reload. If you listen, you can hear the ping as these things eject their clips, and you can see them reloading their rounds pretty quickly. The Americans were also equipped with M1 carbines, the same guys who were equipped with shorter rifles. There's a 15-round box magazine. It was close to close ranges. It was an oversized pistol cartridge rather than a full-size rifle cartridge. So if you tried to fire a target with more than 500 rounds, you definitely did not have enough penetration. Some of the veterans that we talked to, so I think the third trained in weapons as officers. Those officers were usually given their own companies, and they traded for their own safety to stop to lay down as much cover and fire as they can. Here's their movement out. That gives the infantry support, so they can keep the heads down for the Germans that are in the target positions. And these guys are working on the up. The crew that's right in front of the yellow banded skewer is trying to get a 30 caliber machine gun into service that can get some close range machine gun. You can see the Jeep that's closest to the line that he just unlimbered a 50 caliber machine gun on a trailer mount that they're going to get into service here to take out some of those holdouts that are in the trench line. 50 caliber should be enough. One with the 37 millimeter cannons on the field, and the 50 calibers are also mounted on the back of vehicles. They can penetrate most of that trench line. You see a lot of the Jeeps on the field. Jeeps are the most common World War II vehicles you'll find at the events that we do. There are quite a few of them that are still left from the war. And there are places that reproduce the bodies and they reproduce all the parts that go onto those vehicles, even the tires. So they can be completely rebuilt with modern parts. The Jeeps, in a lot of cases, it is designed as a lightweight vehicle. The service life of the Jeep is only expected to be maybe 6 months. So they use lightweight construction in some regards to keep the weight down so they can be delivered with gliders. They wouldn't take as much weight out of the landing craft and things like that. They would have to do beach landings. And in some regards, they were pretty lightweight constructed. And 68 years later, when they're doing restorations, there's a lot of things that you can pop up that have to be fixed on them. But the service life of that vehicle was only meant to be about 6 months, and it was meant to be somewhat disposable. A lot of the Jeeps that we brought over, we found all of the Jeeps that we brought over to the Pacific or to Europe, they were left there. And a lot of the trucks and vehicles that were used in France, those were also left in Europe. So it's actually even more common to find these vehicles that you find on the field. And the heavier the vehicle, sometimes it's easier to find in Europe because the European armies would continue to use these vehicles all the way into the 1950s, 60s, or the 70s. Part of the deal with the automotive industry is that they would make these vehicles for the military, but they also didn't want everything brought back to flood the surplus market. They wanted to be able to make money and recover from the Depression. So their deal was that you would not bring lightweight trucks, and you wouldn't be bringing Jeeps back into the country for everybody to buy. Most of the surplus Jeeps were either on the docks where they would be shipped, or they were actually already on military bases being used here in the United States. It's not very often that we run across a Jeep that actually saw overseas service for that reason. So they're working on their mopping up operations just to take the last couple holdouts that are information on the units in this area, and they will clear them that even if they ran across German wounded, they would pick them up and they would care for them in Allied hospitals that they would then ship back to the United States. The U.S. actually had many German POW camps and Italian POW camps here in the States, including Camp Grant, which is right here in Rockford, which housed somewhere between 8,000 to 10,000 German soldiers, mainly from the Africa Corps from the 1942-43 campaigns. By 1944, a lot of the soldiers, German soldiers that they can consider trustees that were not fanatical Nazis and they knew that they weren't going to try to escape, they offered to pay them if they would work in canneries and on farms. Because so many men had gone off towards the war to serve in the military that they didn't have enough manpower. It's also when we started trying to find foreign laborers from Jamaica and also from Mexico to help with harvest. But the Germans helped out quite a bit, and they had extension camps all over this area, including Hampshire, Sycamore, DeKalb, where they did a lot of work for Del Monte